Hello, magical humans. In true Leo style, I have decided to get my witch's hat on, first of all, and second of all, to pull some cards for us for the month of Leo season. So, happy solar return to all you Leos out there. Hope you celebrate the whole month. It's going to be amazing. And for all our other Leo energies and the way they embody in ourselves, magical humans out there, welcome to Leo season. Time to shine, time to allow your creative self to come forth. The part of you that doesn't shy away when perhaps the light is shining on you, or when a compliment comes your way, or when a space that is maybe actually meant for you to take up. Go for it. So, I just a few moments ago was sitting here at my desk, and a butterfly came coming up to the window. But I was actually a little concerned because they kind of kept making contact with the window. I was like, oh no, how do I help this butterfly? But I actually think the butterfly was trying to help me. Oh, there it is again. So magical. So I wanted to read you all the butterfly card from the Animal Spirit Guidebook, as it's an animal that has definitely been showing up for me and a lot of the other magical folks that I'm, in circle with, talking to, seeing, doing cool stuff, a lot around relationships. And I think that's especially apparent in this time, in this particular chapter of the COVID-19 pandemic, where there is a lot of social integration, reintegration going on. And a lot is coming up, I know, in my own body in terms of activation, and other folks that I'm talking to about it. Sometimes we'll get together and then there reaches a point where people kind of use humor to be like, yeah, this is bizarre. This is still not normal. There is no normal. We will never go back to normal. Also, normal was not good. It was not great, y'all. Okay, so let's read the butterfly card together. And the butterfly card in this deck is associated with the element of air. Air being associated with the direction of east. So if you are casting a circle or working with the elements, you can work with the east direction, associated with the springtime, rebirth, creation, little babies, like young life. Butterfly, undergoing great change and transformation. I think that's about right. The energy of the butterfly is with us during periods of transition. Since air is the element of the heart, this change usually involves relationships. Or if you have your heart in your job or your career or in your community work or in your studies or whatever it is, your heart is lights up about. It could be around those experiences as well. Since transition is accompanied by some amount of discomfort, I would say definitely discomfort in this particular time, be extra patient and kind during this time, especially if the butterfly is you. Oh, man. My therapist was actually just telling me, it was towards the end of session, and I don't know if this happens to you in therapy, but towards the end, you're like, oh, is it gonna end yet? You around the last 5 minutes, so then there might be more silence. And then my therapist was like, I just really want you to make care time for yourself. I really want you to just take care of yourself, be kind to yourself. And I was like, yes, I really need to be making that number one on the list. So I hope all you other magical creatures out there are making time for yourself. Priority number one. Ooh, and whatever that looks like for you. You know, there's a bazillion ways that could look. Let solid friends and activities support you like a cocoon, committing to one daily routine, a meal, a practice, a prayer, done at the same place and time will do wonders for lifting a butterfly's spirit. Yeah, I hella feel that, because the cocoon, I often associate it with the Hanged One card in the, in the tarot. And I was in my Hanged One year all through 2020. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, and I say like your year, if you add together your month, birth date, and year that you were born in numerically, and like mine is like 27, it all adds up to 27, then you add those two numbers together, 2 and 7, 9. So that's my tarot card life path. It's a numerology approach to the tarot. Lindsay Mack speaks about it, and it's it's in a book that I'll put in the newsletter. But the Hanged One is symbolizes that cocoon, that void space where you're completely surrendered and you turn to goo as you're basically preparing for death, or in the butterfly's case, rebirth. So currently now in my death year, it's going great. A lot happening. But all of this to say that I really feel, I love this image of like solid friends. Notice the word solid in front, right? Solid friends and activities support you like a cocoon. And I feel like during this time there is so much reactivation of FOMO, which is something that we didn't really have to navigate or deal with for over a year, and now it's here again, and that can be really overwhelming and really destabilizing to the body, the mind, and the spirit, and feel really conflicting, and like there are these different parts coming up pulling you in different directions, and you're like, what is the medicine? What is the right thing for me? Should I go to the thing? Should I not? Do I need more like alone time to rejuvenate and literally do fucking nothing? Or actually, would it be really good to be around people? Of course, safely. So that's what's up with the butterfly, is like checking in with your intentions, seeing if maybe even grounding more. How it's kind of saying like friends and activities support you, but then also committing to one daily routine. I mean, definitely eating, my friends. That is the second thing I wanted to talk about, is food. And as you all know, I am an eating disorder survivor, and I struggle with ARFID. I have my whole life, so that's just a feeding disorder that I view for myself as like a mental health disability, because but that's just my way of relating to it. That does not mean that everyone who has an ARFID experience, it doesn't mean it can't fully resolve. It's just, that's just how mine is. And so one thing that is really helpful for the experience of ARFID, and if you don't know what that is, that's avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. It's very simplified, like it's really hard to fucking feed yourself, to eat. Like the act, the preparation, and then also the actual food in terms of like sensory issues. A lot of the times it's usually present early on when you're a child, which was my case, and often the children will get labeled as picky eaters, and parents are just overwhelmed with being parents, so they don't necessarily know how to support the child in that, and also might not be equipped to really look at how the whole family system is impacting a child's relationship to food and nourishment. But there's a lack of, this is like in the DSM, so let's just remember that it's a super limited scope. That book But in the ARFID diagnosis, in the DSM, there is a lack of body image distress or fat phobia. But of course, like, let's be real, we are in a society and have been for literally centuries, like over 3 centuries plus. That's a lot of fat phobia. So the idea that people don't have any, it's just like, it's more in the DSM when they say that. It's like, oh, well, you have like our level of fat phobia, which, you know, the medical system's pretty fucking fat phobic. So I don't think it's, I don't know. It still should be a pathway for every single person to evaluate for themselves on a consistent basis. But all of that to say, this deck, which is Kitchen Oracle cards, is my new favorite deck. And I got it because I have been integrating kitchen witchcraft into healing my relationship with food, and feeling more of a connection, because I know without a doubt within myself that an ancestral lineage that I am here to break in this lifetime is disconnection from my ancestral lands, from my ancestral magic, and that and culture, right? Like, culture is everything. So that's the language, that's the food, that's the dance, that's the music, that's the stories, that's the land, that's the clothing, like all these things that in certain circles can really be taken for granted. At least that's or sometimes like demonized or seen as like less than, which is what I've experienced as it relates to like fashion expression or pleasure in food or slowness in nature. In my time as an undergraduate major in environmental studies at the University of Vermont, where I received an incredible education in environmental studies and community organizing and development and all of that fun stuff. But it also heavily influences my ARFID. And for others, it might influence their orthorexia, or a branch of what I'm now calling sustirexia, where the pursuit of health is... the justification is more like in the environmental and animal rights category. And, you know, yeah, that's a long talk for another time. But in short, like, people who are eating animal-based products or who are, you know, buy packaged food where there's like plastic wrap on it, like, it doesn't mean that they don't have an authentic love and connection for animals and the land. But the impetus of those systems and those products being created is not on the consumer. That's victim blaming, my friends. So all that to say, environmentalism has it can lead to people having disordered relationship to food. So kitchen witchery, I think, is really healing. And so I would like to pull a card for us to go with the butterfly for this beautiful Leo season, for all you magical humans. Take with it what works for you and leave what doesn't, and anything that's like uncomfortable, sit with it. Oh my gosh, yes! Sweetness, babies! Yeah, we are throwing those orthorexic beliefs right out the window, okay? All foods fit. All foods fit. All foods fit. All foods fit. Okay, cool. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. Sugar. So it doesn't... So in this deck, the way it's set up, they have the food item on top. So for example, what do we have on the bottom here? I like to pull that sometimes for like... the more, even more like unconscious stuff that's like, okay, garlic, repel. Ooh, what? So we've got garlic up here and then repel down there. That's like the essence word, and this is the food. I got this deck because my dietitian, we were trying to come up with ways to get me more motivated to cook. To cook and to just know the food and create. Like, you know, I have an intention for myself for eating to be a creative process. Yeah. So we pulled the sugar sweetness card, which I love, especially as someone with ARPID, because, you know, one of the expressions of it can be sweet tooth, but I don't have a problem with that. So that's the parts about mental health shit that you got to be aware of for yourself, are the parts of your diagnosis that are being pathologized, and you want to question, why are they being pathologized, and does that still hold water today? And for me, the fear of sugar thing really needs to go out the window, folks. We just need to stop with it. So let's hear the medicine of sugar, sweetness. And this goes perfectly with this beautiful card, the butterfly, right? When they're talking about showing yourself patience and kindness, being sweet to yourself in all of the ways, physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological, all of that good stuff. You know, sweets lift our spirits. And they also, you know, I know one of the reasons why I'm in relationship with, I don't even like to call them sugary foods. They're just foods, folks. My God. But, sugary foods for this particular purpose, because with ARFID, again, there can sometimes be, I also have a chronically hyperactivated nervous system, which can often manifest as workaholism. I know you know what it's like. I know you know. And when sugar can help me stay sometimes in that hyperactive nervous system place, which that being up there and not actually in my window is something that for me is a healthy or a well-being, right? New language. That's a well-being motivator for me, to break that pattern rather than demonizing something that actually helps me survive. And also is fucking delicious. So pleasure is a positive deposit in the bank that we don't want to undermine, invalidate, or demonize ever. Because that would be some Christian shit, okay? That would be some let's burn the witch, historical reenactment stuff. So we've got the butterfly, take care of yourself. We've got the sugar card. Let's read what it is, by Barbara and Flavia. Barbara McIlonjan Free and Flavia Kate Peters, illustrated by Richard Crooks. Cool. And these are both Gaelic witches who created this book. So that's also why I got it. Okay. Sugar. Okay. Here's a spell for you, witches. Desserts and candies are a weakness. I hate this spell already. Boo! Not down with this spell. We need to update this spell. So this right here, folks, in your magical practices, you need to notice for where the bullshit is, because it's everywhere. You know, literally, I'm in relationship to this book right now to have a positive relationship to food. And I go to the sugar page where I'm talking about, let's not fucking demonize this shit. Let's talk about the medicine of it. And then here we are already pathologizing it. That's insane. Oh my God. So you gotta have your bullshit meter up, because it is fucking everywhere and it's super subtle. That's what folks don't understand, especially medical professionals. The medical system does not understand about eating and feeding stuff, or really mental health, to be quite honest, is that what we call subclinical, but is really the more implicit pain, implicit harm, implicit violence that happens through these systems and over centuries becomes culture. Thinking that having a dessert and candy makes you weak. That is fucking insane. No. That's just... No. Okay. Well, I'm a little skeptical about this card, so I'm just going to put it through my own filter. Okay. Harness all your desires by adding some sweetness to your life. This sweet crystal power is irreplaceable when it comes to working with sugar magic in ritual and attraction spells. When you utilize my sugary charms and candy spells, I will magnetize all that you wish to allure. Sprinkle me in nature to summon the elements, or burn a sugar cube to communicate with the spirits you wish to invoke. As I sweeten any culinary dish, I'll delight your tongue and entice your taste buds. When your mood turns sour, burn me to sweeten you up, or perform some sweetening magic on another whose words have a bitter edge. As you sugarcoat a situation, you are supported by the sweet smell of magic, which really will be the icing on the cake. You know, that's very interesting. Two things. One, and them talking about like using sugar to brighten your mood, right? So typically in our culture, we would demonize that. We would call that like emotional eating. Emotional eating is survival, is pleasure, is really quite normal. It's when we feel out of control and like something's never going to end. Those are cognitive distortions which arise from activation in the nervous system. So it's really more a question of, why is the body activated in that moment? Is it because this person was just fucking working their ass off all day and now they're coming home and coming off of like work zone and they're moving into like a hypoactivated space where they're like, they want to numb out and not feel because they're exhausted? Like, yeah, that's not that person's fault. And the whole term of emotional eating is really victim blaming and really like behavior mental health focused, and not at all acknowledging the systems in which a person is living in that might so they're just trying to survive, number one, but two, also like having ice cream when you've had like a sad day is fine. If you need to hear that, like, let me tell you, like, that's okay. That's pleasure. That's comfort. Like, it's okay to take comfort in food. That doesn't mean we have an eating disorder, okay? That doesn't mean that we are out of balance per se. That does not mean we are going to die of negative health consequences in some future, okay? All it means is it makes us feel good and we deserve to feel good. It's okay. Compassion, understanding. So I kind of like that the spell says that, even though earlier in the spell there was like this weird weakness thing going on. So I'm like, what's the disconnect? And I also really like, as you sugarcoat a situation, normally I would be a little like, ooh, no, you gotta be real with it. You know, you just gotta be a truth speaker and you don't want to sugarcoat something. However, as someone who is around folks that don't like truth speaking, whether that's family or more extended circles, during this time of social integration, I am learning the medicine of that, the power of withholding information, or as like in witchcraft, like guarding your magic, making sure, being careful of who you share sacred things with, right? And that's really just out of a self-respect. It doesn't even necessarily have to be from a total like fear-based place, but it's more just a place of like, oh, actually, like, I don't have to share my whole self with everyone, especially people who I don't feel safe with, or people who I feel in connection with on some things and out of alignment on others. That's okay. That's why we build networks and webs of support instead of expecting one person or a couple of people or one community to be our end-all be-all. So that is the magic of Leo season, my friends. For you, we've got butterfly and we've got the sugar card. So sweetness. As you are undergoing great change and transformation, be kind to yourself, take it easy, check in. There's a lot going on still. See if you can have a practice to ground you every single day, even if it's as simple as waking up and lighting a candle. Done. And not in a done I just check it off the box, even though I love checking off boxes. Capricorn stellium, but more in the vein of you're doing it for yourself. It's kind of like a tether, a rope, something to ground you in, and you can always come back to it. So be well, be kind, have fun, be in pleasure, and I will see you next week. And I want to also give a little heads up that on August 26th, I'm going to be doing a talk, especially about everything we've explored today in these cards, through Holisticism, their community teachers workshop. I'll put a link in the newsletter, and I'll be teaching a workshop about unlearning health, a foundational lesson for the radical witch. So if you're like, what? Yeah, you want to be there. It's going to be awesome. Really going to get into very foundational concepts as to why something like this card is not a problem. Okay. So, magic and blessings to you in the land. Slàinte mhath.